Also, this past week, it was reported in the American Free Press, U.S. warns Israel. Joint Chiefs Chairman says another liberty will not be tolerated. And last week, we didn't really get to go into the U.S. liberty in detail like we wanted to. Recently appointed Chairman of Joint Chiefs, Admiral Mike Mullen, flew to Tel Aviv to warn Israel's military establishment how important it was that history not repeat itself, referring to Israel's deliberate attack on the USS Liberty in June of 1967. The establishment media blacked out the event in which 34 American men were killed for decades and still tries to deny it. Given the fact that this brazen 2-hour attack upon the United States had been hushed for 41 years, the reason for Mullen's meeting is obvious. Someone within the intelligence or military apparatus of the United States has conducted that Israel is planning a USS Liberty Part 2, meaning an attack on a U.S. ship, most likely in the Persian Gulf, leading to a massive loss of life to be blamed on Iran. As was intended in 1967 when Israel attacked the Liberty, angry Americans would demand the obliteration of the guilty party, the false identity of which the Jewish media establishment in America would provide. And while all the players involved have been tight-lipped about the particulars of this meeting, Mullen's impromptu visit to Israel and subsequent discussion was in effect a stern warning to Israel not to even think about it. If you're having a hard time believing this history of government-sponsored terrorism or self-inflicted wounds, look at this report this week in the American Free Press, Monday, August 4th, Mark Glenn. Admiral Mullins is not only admitting to the U.S. Liberty false flag attack, but also telling Israel not to be party to another concerning Iran. The truth is being displayed in everyone's face if they just care enough to wake up and recognize it. We'd also said that we were going to update what information we could find on tasering, and well, we done a lot of looking, and a lot of the information was old, a couple of years old, but just so that we can say we done what we said we would do, according to Amnesty International, 61 people died in 2005 after being shocked by law enforcement agency tasers, a 27% increase from 2004's tally of 48 deaths, finds an Amnesty International study released in 2006, including 10 taser-related deaths through mid-February of this year, and at least 152 people have died in the United States since June of 2001 after being shocked with the weapons. Despite a lack of independent research on taser safety, police officers are using these weapons as a routine force tool rather than a weapon of last resort, said Dr. William Schultz, Executive Director of Amnesty International. These weapons have a record that's growing longer each week, and it's not a good one. The increasingly frequent taser deaths underscore the need for an independent, rigorous, and impartial inquiry into their use. Amnesty International's continued research, including a review of taser-related deaths since the organization's November 2004 report, reveals that most who died were unarmed men who did not appear to pose a threat of death or serious injury at the time of being electroshocked. In some law enforcement agencies, the use of tasers is allowed if a person simply does not comply with the officer's demands. In some cases, the alleged abuse amounts to torture or other cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment. The 51-page Amnesty International study finds that in 7 cases, including 3 in 2005, the medical examiner or coroner performing the autopsy has listed taser as a primary cause of death and has classified the death as a homicide. In an additional 16 of the 152 cases, the medical examiner or coroner has cited tasers as a contributory factor in the death. Amnesty International believes there may be more cases in which tasers cannot be ruled out as a possible factor in the death. Recent studies have cited the need for more research into potential adverse effects from taser shock on people who are agitated, under the influence of drugs, or subject to multiple or prolonged shocks. Also, this went by the news. A suspect in a Border Patrol agent's death set free in Mexico. A man jailed in Mexico on suspicion of fatally running down a Border Patrol agent in January has been released without charges, it was reported Wednesday. The Attorney General's office in Baja California confirmed to the Associated Press that Jesus Montes has been released from a Mexican jail. No explanation for his release was given. Navarro was arrested on January 22nd by Mexican authorities. He was accused of driving a Hummer carrying drugs on January 19th near Yuma, Arizona. Border Patrol agent Luis Aguilar was placing spike strips on the road to stop the Hummer and a second vehicle when he was struck and killed. Border Patrol agents said Mexican authorities alleged Navarro kept going, crossed into Mexico, and gave the Hummer to accomplices, and now he's been released, and they don't know where he's at. Every week we take a poll, and we done a little bit different on our poll this week. We had, yes, I believe what was reported on the Real News concerning the history of false flag events. And we had, no, I don't believe anything that Farron and Brian have to say. So we gave you a chance to stick it to us. And the winner was, by a landslide, yes, I believe what was reported on the Real News concerning the history of false flag events. And you can go and look, I think at last count it was 27-0, so we felt good about that. Every week we also have a call to action. We didn't get to it last week. But this week on our call to action, I would like to call on all of our listeners to research World Trade Center 7. Google it, look into these events, check it out for yourself. It defies logic, it defies explanation. It was purposely left out of the 9/11 Commission report, so if you would like to look into this to find the truth, it is an excellent starting point. We will continue this discussion next week. And every week we have a quote of the week, and this week our quote of the week is, "Today, America would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told that there were an outside threat from beyond, whether real or propagated, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all people of the world will plead to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by the world government." And that was Henry Kissinger at the Bilderberg Conference, 1991. Email us on air at therealnewsradio.com. Our website's realnewsradio.com. It's a work in progress, but we're making some real changes on it now. And until next week, this is Farron and Brian saying, God help us all.